welcome to the first Research and Innovation Meet at Donsö Shipping Meet. The theme for DSM2025 is Securing the Future, and this seminar has the subtitle Making Roadmaps to Sustainability Come True. My name is Åsa Burman, and I will be the moderator of this seminar today. I work as a director of Lighthouse a few months more, and I've had the privilege to actually put together this program together with DSM working group and research colleagues. And if it's not to your liking, then you know who to blame. So, and as you see on this picture, there are also quite a few others that have been very important to have this research and innovation seminar, and also DSM. Before going into the program, I would like to give the microphone to Jonas Backman, CEO of DSM. And why? Why are you doing this?
Hello, everybody. Why we do this? I called Åsa for a year ago, and this is for real. We're sitting with drawings, we're sitting with innovations, and we have a feeling we do business and innovations, technical things. And I will show you a little bit picture here. When Klaus Muller coming up here, it's showing from the first drawing to the Tärnvik are in the harbor of Donsö with full sailing on. This is what is real. And Åsa, this is the first meet here. We started the Donsö Ship Meet 2009. Now we are to 2025. We have worked 8 times with Donsö Ship Meet, and we improve all time. And this is with this meet we will approve more. And what I want to say is that 2027, when we stand here, perhaps there will be approximately 800, 900 people. And I think at that time we need to use the church.
That's nice.
Everybody to you, welcome to this new meet, and have a good time here, Åsa, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Jonas. So, and since I'm the moderator putting the program together, I also have the privilege to actually add some of my own slides. So I start with this one. And that is the program. That is, of course, really what we are here all about. And we will not have any break. I will tell you to stand up and wave a little with your arms. And those of you who were at the banquet yesterday, you know how to do it. And then we will continue. And as we have experienced, and many of us applauded, the shipping sector, both in Europe and in globally, have gotten and will get stricter regulations, especially on climate impact, but also on other sustainability issues. And what we would like to show you today is actually that you can have a plan, and then you can actually implement what you're thinking, so it becomes real, as Jonas said. And we hope to show you some examples from land and from on board. And with these words, because I will take my slides later, with these words, I would like to give the word to Anders Hermansson, who's the CEO of the Swedish Shipowners Association. And Anders has a long experience from a lot of government things, don't you? Like the Minister of Enterprise, the Swedish Transport Agency, and welcome up.
Thank you, Åsa. Can you all hear me? Okay. That's a warm welcome, and folks, I haven't said anything yet, so. Well, thank you all for this opportunity to address you all here today. For shipping, as an industry, research and innovation aren't optional extras. They are the engine driving the industry's transition to a safer, greener, and more efficient future. So it is truly important. For us, Sweden as a country, building so much of our competitiveness on being in the forefront. This is true also for the shipping industry. This is also important in terms of know-how and technology. So underlining the importance of research and innovation cannot be done too little. During DSM, we have received a clear ambition from the political level to double the Swedish fleet. That's a good ambition, but it will require a lot of effort from the political level, but also from the industry. It is safe to say that slowly but steadily, we are now seeing the forming of some sort of Swedish shipping policy. This is most welcome. This is a big leap, not just for shipping, but also for Sweden. To the core of this must also include research and innovation. And given how dependent Sweden is on its shipping for its energy security, food security, security of supply, and of course, our competitiveness, research and innovation needs to be there to support these efforts. In addition, we have the fortunate situation where we still have good shipping companies doing a lot of innovation. We have good maritime companies doing a lot of innovation. So we certainly have things to build on. And that's something we should be truly thankful for and use moving forward. I am very proud that the industry has come together within the framework of Lighthouse to have and present a research agenda moving forward. The agenda proposes, among other things, the need to increase the funding for R&D, the need to focus on maritime knowledge, both within academia and in the broader society, the know-how, if you will. And also the need to continue to focus on keeping the industry competitive and ready to meet tomorrow's challenges. In doing this, there are certain things that we can ask from the government, for example, but there are also things that academia needs to do. Academia needs to ensure that research do not stay on the shelves. They need to be more outreaching, meeting the industry. And the same, having said this, it goes the other way around. Industry needs to be a lot more engaged in the research, so we actually get the product out there. Otherwise, it will be two separate parts not doing the work together, and we cannot move forward in the way that we should. We should also be quite thankful of the possibility, or actually using the way now to use all our resources to meet the other challenge we are facing. That is the security challenge. This will mean that the civil part and the military research needs to come closer than it has been before. And we have seen a lot of good examples, especially if you go on the ships here on Donsö. You can see a lot of good innovation and research coming out. So there are very good things being done. And I think I, for one, is very much looking forward to the discussions today, because I know there are a lot of good examples. We just need to do it a little bit more often, and a little bit better to be even more competitive. Thank you also.
Thank you, Anders. Thank you very much. And you know who you are going to give your microphone to, because we have plans for this. Okay, I said I will just use some minutes to talk a little about what is Lighthouse. Anders spoke a little about it, but I just wanted to tell you all. It's the Swedish platform for collaboration and knowledge exchange in maritime research and innovation. And our focus is sustainable shipping in all aspects. And it's interdisciplinary. So we talk about business models, hull, cleaning, and everything in between. And the activities we do is we try to create collaboration and networking by being here, for instance, but also having our own seminars and a lot of other things. We have projects and programs, and we try to, with, for example, this agenda, to show the ministries and the politicians how important it is to put more money into research and innovation. And we also do communication and external monitoring. But with the communication, we don't want research to sit on a shelf. We want people to know exactly what came out, how can we use it. And that is a big part of what we're doing. Shipping is seeing a lot of changes, creating uncertainties, but also opportunities. A lot of things are happening, and if you go back just a few years, shipping was hardly mentioned. It still is not mentioned so much in Sweden, but if you look in the international media, there's a lot of things discussed going on where regulations are actually coming in. And this new reality means navigating a complex landscape with a lot of different things, both on land side and on board. And quite a few of these we will see addressed today. And thank you, DMV, for helping me with these slides. And now I would like to leave the word to Jaap Gebrard, who is Secretary General of Waterborne. And Jaap has been walking around here for 2 days, meeting a lot of Swedes, but also other people that speak other languages. And you've been working in Brussels for quite some time, and now for Waterborne since 2022. No, 21.
2018.
2018, but you were at the...
2022
Yeah.
changed the job.
Chair, yeah. So you've been the Secretary General since 2022, and I've also had the honor to be on your board. You will tell us everything about what is happening in the EU in the waterborne sector.
And money.
And money,
And
yes.
money. Before I start, I studied logistics, and one might wonder, why do you say this? I think yesterday evening I've seen one of the biggest logistics operations when the dinner, which was perfect in terms of quality of food, but also in logistics, it was something amazing. And it brings me also back to the term of collaboration. I learned yesterday that cooperation is a one-sided advantage, collaboration is a two-sided advantage, and it is one of the DNA of the presentation I will give you. I will first bring you to Brussels, which is far away, which has a specific way of operating, but a very collaborative way of operating. So for all of you, there is an opportunity to bring forward your input in terms of content, in terms of challenges, in terms of what we should improve and how it functions. We are one of the European technology platforms. A technology platform is recognized by the European Commission, but not financed by the European Commission. We are a membership-based organization and recognized to provide the European Commission with input on research, development and innovation priorities for the waterborne sector, including deployment of innovations, which is becoming more and more important. Why is it called waterborne and not maritime? For multiple reasons. One is it includes both maritime transport and inland navigation, which is in a couple of EU landlocked countries or even in a couple of maritime nations, a quite big mode of transport, but it also includes ports, for example. And we are mirrored by the Ministry of Transport in the European Commission, which has a separate directorate waterborne. And we have a working group on blue economy, but I will come back to that a bit later. When we started in 2018, we had 35 members, and I think the current number, 131 and going up, shows the spirit of collaboration in the sector, representing half research and academia and half industry or industry representatives. And together, we work in 3 areas, ships and shipping, so anything which has got to do with ships and the production of equipment and shipbuilding, ports and logistics, and blue economy, and then mainly looking at the industrial base of waterborne. Where are these companies providing services or products to the blue economy? Like, for example, a new domain, underwater domain, which is also looking at, for example, underwater unmanned vehicles. What is important is that since 2021 we have a partnership with the European Commission, a partnership on zero-emission waterborne transport. That's not taken for granted. Partnerships have been in place already for, I think, 21 years, and there were in the research program before this one 120 partnerships between the European Commission and sectors. Member States said when Horizon Europe was designed, which started in 2021, we need to slash the number of partnerships. So it went down to 48, and only 1 or 2 are new ones, and the one on zero-emission waterborne transport is a new one. So it shows the strategic importance of the sector for the European Union, but I will have more on that one. To close up on what we do, So our work is mainly based on the input we get from our members. And of course, we try to align this with upcoming EU policies and strategies and also with international legislation. We have these 3 working groups and we just launched our strategic research agenda. What do we want to achieve by 2040, 2050? Of course, the zero emission part is still high on the agenda, but also competitiveness is one of the new, I would say, policy objectives of this European Commission, and then the ports and logistics and the blue economy. A partnership, because this is where most of the funding at the moment comes from. What is this about? So the partnership was granted or was negotiated in 2018, 2019 and 2020 between the sector, 27 EU member states, and I think at that moment in time 12 European Commission services or 12 ministries. So that's always an interesting process in terms of collaboration and who has which priorities. But in the end, it is to be able to comply with the European Green Deal, which was launched in 2019. Why? Because we had the first IMO greenhouse gas emission reduction strategy. We had the Green Deal coming up. In the inland navigation sector, there was a revision of the Act of Mannheim. So everything was getting into the same direction. And we said, okay, zero emissions might be possible, but there is a lot of research needed to be able to get it working, specifically for the maritime sector. There is a basket of measures in terms of legislation. I'm not going into that direction. Plus, Horizon Europe, the European Research and Innovation Programme, the Zero Emission Waterborne Transport, and then deployment in the context of the Innovation Fund and the Connecting Europe facility. Now, welcome into our daily lives. 27 member states, 12 European Commission services, and the sector need to agree on what are we going to achieve. We need to be able to develop and demonstrate zero emission solutions for all main ship types and services by 2030. Technology is ready by 2030 to deploy to be able to reach the 2050 target, but also the 2030 target of 55% emission reduction. What does it mean, zero emission? Fully eliminate greenhouse gas emissions from both new ships and existing ships, cutting coastal and inland pollution to air by at least 50% compared to the levels of, I think, 2020, and the full elimination of pollution to water for all main ship types and services by 2030. We needed to have a dream. Let's see how far we get, but a lot happened. The Commission is making available 530 million euros of funding in a period of 7 years. Work program 2025 is open, 2026 and 27 are currently being finalized. And our sector is often called conservative. I would call ourselves introvert, because the sector is investing 6 times more in the same period in time. We have to map every year what is the sector doing, so that's only our members. And it turns out that this sector is the one investing most in R&D, specifically compared to the other modes of transport. So I think that's something which we really should make known. All main ship types and services. That was another interesting exercise which took, I think, a year. So we classified the worldwide category of the worldwide ships. We tried to categorize into 6 categories, mainly based on technologies, starting with inland navigation, short sea shipping meaning sailing between 2 EU ports or an EU port and a port in a neighboring country, ferries, cruise as a separate category because that's until today a unique European product, and then long distance shipping and a category offshore shipping. So once again, 530 million, 7 years, solutions ready for these 6 ship types, but also for liner and tramp, and for new build and retrofitting. That's an incredible exercise where a lot has happened, and I will show you some examples. How? How are we going to do this? What is the R&D focused on? One is the use of sustainable alternative fuels on board. Not the production of the fuels, but how are we going to integrate the tanks? How are we going to deal with safety, etc.? That is being done in the context of this partnership. Electrification. The current projects are looking at autonomy of electrification up to 150 nautical miles with onboard demonstrations. Energy efficiency for 2 reasons. One, to be able to cut emissions from the current fleet as soon as possible, and second, to be able to sail with more expensive fuels, at least at this moment in time. Wind assistance has been something which has been quite a lot researched in the first 4 years and deployed. Design and retrofitting, how to integrate all of this on board. Digital green, how can we use digitalization to cut emissions? We are not able to finance everything, but digitalization certainly has a potential. And how to link all of this with ports. So how to charge, but also how to reduce emissions in port areas. A few examples. There are, I think, around 60 projects running. So I have tried to find 5 with Swedish participation. There is one called Reship, where Chalmers University is involved, that started at the beginning of the partnership in 2022. And it is about 35% emission reduction by means of the use of hydrogen, but also by different means of storing hydrogen on board. I think this one is one of the most famous ones in the context of the partnership. So our members have provided the input for the call text, negotiated with the European Commission, negotiated with the member states, and then the call texts are published. And this is, I think, one of the projects which most people know. So the Orcel Horizon started in 2023, finishes in 2027. Overall budget from the side of the EU, 9 million, but once again with 2 physical demonstrations. So research often goes far beyond lower TRL, or we often, in most of the projects, there is onboard demonstration going on. Then we have Synergetics, which is on the green transformation of inland navigation and, I think, coastal shipping, short sea shipping. The 1st of January 2023 until 2026 with a budget of 4 million EU contribution. Again, Swedish participation, and again, including onboard demonstration. Then Dynaport, on just-in-time arrival in port. One of the things that has been heavily discussed and has a huge potential, started in 2024 together with a sister project and is ending in 2026 with 7 million of EU contribution. And then digitalization, Twinship, where Stena Line is involved, started recently and will finish in 3 years' time. And again, looking at how to reduce emissions as soon as possible. So a lot of these projects are looking at how can we upscale, how can we test, and then how can we ensure that technologies, when they are successful, not only technology-wise, but certainly also from a business readiness level, how can they be deployed? Slides will be shared. I'm not going to read all of them, but I have been trying to look. The calls 2025 are open, but the deadline is in 2 weeks. What is still around the corner, 2 years of calls, 2026 and 2027, with an overall budget of 134 million of EU co-financing available for the waterborne sector in the context of the partnership. What we already see here, the European Commission is working on 2 big strategies. I will have a final slide on that one, but we see 2 dedicated calls, Shipyard of the Future, Port of the Future, which are linked to the upcoming maritime and port strategy. That was R&D. Often there is a first piloting in the R&D projects, but now we need to start deploying. The EU Innovation Fund is a rather new fund, which is financed via the EU ETS. Maritime could already apply in previous rounds, but when maritime became included in the EU ETS, it became fully eligible. There are specific schemes in the EU Innovation Fund for the maritime sector. Unfortunately, I don't have yet the details of 2025 because the calls will open in December, but it's mainly on the deployment of net zero and innovative technologies. There is a list of the possible technologies on the slide, but as long as it leads to reducing emissions and it is a relatively new innovation, it can be piloted in the context of the Innovation Fund. Interesting part here is it's funding up to 60% of additional capital expenses and or up to 60% of additional operational expenses for a period of 10 years. And I think specifically that last part is often overlooked because it's the operational expenses which are currently also a stumbling block. There will be a new round of calls opening in December, but unfortunately the details are not known yet. What is sure, there will be a few billion available for the deployment of net zero and innovative technologies. In the last round it was 2.1 billion, and there will be an auction mechanism which is targeted at producing fuels, and there always is 200 or 300 million for the maritime sector. So certainly something to be taken into account. There is, of course, one key example in the context of the Innovation Fund in Sweden, which has been successful. I will not go into the project, but I thought it was really important to show that the Innovation Fund, I think it was one of the first projects in the maritime domain granted in the Innovation Fund, so it's also something to be communicated. The future looks relatively bright for this sector in the European context. As Åsa said, shipping, maritime was not high on the agenda so far. That changed rapidly in the context of COVID, and it has been further increased following the crisis with Ukraine. There are currently two strategies coming up. One is the industrial maritime strategy, and the second one is the port strategy. Which parts will be in the industrial maritime strategy, which parts will be in the port strategy, that's still up for debate. Both have innovation as one of the key actions. So in both packages we have 5 pillars, and in both innovation is key. The interesting part is in the industrial maritime strategy, they call it innovation and digitalization. And when I asked why is this called innovation and digitalization and not innovation, because the European Commission wants to ensure that the potential of digitalization for the sector will be fully exploited. And often in the past, digitalization did not get the full attention. So I think in that sense it looks bright in terms of content. In terms of ensuring that there is sufficient funding available, I might need all of you, because the budget negotiations for the EU will be the most toughest one ever, and they have already kicked off. But I think also for you in Sweden there will be multiple opportunities. Before I give the floor and my microphone to someone else, I want to wholeheartedly thank all of you for organizing this important meeting. I think it's key that we keep discussing what is possible in terms of R&D, and it's an invitation to all of you, in case we need to do something different, we need to put priorities forward, we need to change something, please let us know, and we will take it into account. I know, and that is something we are discussing at the moment extensively, there is funding available, the topics are relevant, but the procedures to apply are far from easy. So any tangible input we can get on how it could be made relatively more easy is more than welcome. And that are only one of the things. Also, I would like to thank you for inviting me. It have been 2 very inspiring days here in Donzo. I'm happy to be back, and I hope it lays the foundations for events in the future. And then I give the microphone to first questions, I think, if there are any.
If I get my microphone working. Thank you very much. This was even better than I thought when I looked at your slides. Really nice to see that so many things are happening. And before this new Green Deal, I mean, lots of things weren't even mentioned talking about sustainability. Ports, for instance, they were not mentioned so much, and shipping was not so important. And now it seems that it's getting more important. But do you think there will be a follow-up for the zero emission waterborne transport, the program?
As it stands by now, one of the implementing tools of both partnerships, of both strategies, will be a continuation of the partnership as it stands by now, but with a broader scope. So zero emission, digital, ports further integrated, and of course looking at competitiveness.
Okay. You have 131 members, and I know it's only 2 Swedish members, so any of you wanting to join, it's very easy. And I can say what you can do, you're asking for input, and that is of course something you can give. But as a member, I can say that you can actually participate in writing what can become call texts, and that's something to really look into. And a lot of your companies here are members, but not from the Swedish side. So I think you're all... Are there any... I think you're all quite well represented maybe, but ship owners, for one instance, could be more, because they are actually the ones that are going to use the technology. And also ports, because there will be a lot of port... there will be a lot of things pushed on the ports to actually do things. Are there any questions in the audience? We have 2 microphones, people running or walking around? Is it crystal clear? Oh, there's a question from Julia Christensson at Port of Gothenburg.
Hi, interesting presentation. I was just wondering, it's a lot about innovation, and how about what you see for EU funding in the future for more of scale up when you want to start deploying the innovations? Will it be anything there to apply for?
The current innovation program is called Horizon Europe. And there was a brainwave because the new innovation program will also be called Horizon Europe. So that will continue after 2027. The big change at the European level is a European Competitiveness Fund. And there will be a clear link between Horizon Europe and the European Competitiveness Fund. How can we co-finance the entire value chain from R&D to piloting up to deployment? So there will be far more attention for deployment. And there is a good proposal, but let's see how it turns out in terms of funding in the Connecting Europe Facility 3, which is also partially funding infrastructure imports. So as it stands by now, that will get far more attention.
Thank you. Good answer, or you want... Okay, any more further questions? Any more? Okay, you will be here, and people can talk to you at lunch if you have. And I would also like to give you a speaker's gift. And this is to show that you have actually donated to Mercy Ships.
Thank
So,
you very much.
Thank you very much. So, let's move on to some things that are actually happening and have happened. I would now like to welcome Henrik Rådberg, Manager New Opportunities at Preem. And you have 15 years of experience in working with advancing renewable fuels in various ways. And you will give some insight into Preem's road to a more sustainable operation. Here you are, and thank you.
Thanks a lot for inviting me here. So normally I spend my days just a few nautical miles northwest of here at the Preem refinery in Gothenburg on the Hisingen Island. So I'm glad to be here to tell a bit on what have Preem been doing in the area of alternative fuels or renewable and sustainable fuels. So refinery development from fossil feedstock to renewables. Preem operates 2 refineries on Hisingen Island, the Gothenburg refinery with about 350 employees, and a bit further north on the west coast, the Lysekil refinery with about 800 employees. So we are a fuel refiner and marketer. And of course we have a maritime business as well with selling products to wholesalers and to bunker companies. But I wanted to show you a movie that some of my colleagues at Preem are going to tell you how we have rebuilt a fossil diesel unit into a fully renewable unit. And talking about innovation, it sometimes it comes in chunks, but sometimes it also gradually innovates over time. And we've been working with rebuilding this unit for almost 20 years. So we started with the early ideas in 2006, and now we're 2025. So gradually we introduced renewable feedstocks into this unit, and a couple of years ago we transformed it into a standalone renewable unit. So it has taken some time for sure, but we have a clear focus to continue building on our experiences, and we know that we can do this in other process units in our refineries as well.
Nu befinner vi oss i Göteborg på Preems raffinaderi. Vi står mitt i anläggningarna där vi producerar våran HVO 100 diesel.
Det var exakt här som Preem började sin gröna resa. Det var 2010 då vi byggde om och tog den här anläggningen i drift. Och det hade ju då försiggått av ett stort antal aktiviteter innan. 2006 sa Preems ledning, vi ska leda omvandlingen mot ett hållbart samhälle. Och i den kölvattnet av det började vi titta på möjliga tekniker. Hur kunde vi åstadkomma att minska den fossila produktionen och öka den förnybara produktionen?
Vi började med att bygga om en anläggning som producerade fossila drivmedel. Och där började vi i en ganska liten skala och samprocessade förnybara råvaror från skogen som är råtalldiesel som vi processade tillsammans med fossila råvaror. 2018 så började vi med processdesignen för anläggningen. Då tittar vi på alla delar i anläggningen, värmeväxlare, pumpar, ugnar, reaktorer för att se om det kunde öka genomströmningen och öka mängden förnybart som vi kunde processa i anläggningen. Vi kom fram till en lösning där vi kunde öka kapaciteten från ungefär 550 kubikmeter per dygn upp till 900 kubikmeter per dygn förnybar råvara. Och samtidigt som vi ökade den förnybara matningen så ville vi också minska den fossila samprocessningen. Det vill säga vi ville ta ut de fossila drivmedlen ur anläggningen och göra anläggningen 100% grön. När vi hade ökat kapaciteten till 900 kubikmeter per dygn så var den närmaste 100% och vi kallade produkten en svanenverk diesel. Men vi ville nå ytterligare lite längre så vi ville försöka få bort de sista delarna av den fossila strömmarna som gick in i anläggningen. Så det vi har gjort är att vi har kunnat plocka bort de sista procenten av fossilt, så nu är anläggningen 100% förnybar. Det vill säga, det finns inga fossila komponenter i produkterna.
It's a great example, I think, of continuous working with a clear vision and breaking it down to strategic focuses. And we are continuing building on that. So earlier this year, we managed to complete and start up a similar project in Lysekil, where we have revamped an existing diesel hydrotreater into, in this first step, co-processing of renewable and fossil feedstocks. And based on that, we also yesterday launched a co-processed marine gas oil product. So this unit produces standard specification fuels for both road and also maritime applications. But this 3D image was just to show the complexity of rebuilding an existing unit, and everything that is not gray or pink orange is sort of new things that we managed to put into the existing unit. So it took slightly more time and slightly more money than we expected to start with, but we kicked this off in 2019, and we managed to start it up just before the summer. So that is also another clear example of that we are executing on our strategy, and that we are building on the vision that we have developed over 20 years. So to go on, the end aim is to have a fully non-fossil refinery, a fully climate-neutral refinery that builds on renewables, feedstocks, and also recycled feedstocks. So where we use feedstocks as fats and oils, but also more advanced feedstocks such as waste streams from forest and agriculture, so-called lignocellulosics, reused materials such as tires and plastics, and also utilizing bio and e-methanol as a feedstock into the refinery processes in order to refine them further into hydrocarbons. Road applications are, of course, important also for renewable feedstocks, but electrification will go on, so Preem's product portfolio need to shift, of course, from not only being fully dependent on road products, but also towards aviation and maritime applications, and also more and more into products where we can produce precursors for chemical feedstocks and further making also the chemical sector circular and renewable. So that is sort of the vision that we are working with. But it doesn't come without a lot of effort. So today, we in the fossil production, the crude oil contains everything from light gases to bitumen and everything in between, gasoline, kerosene, diesel, and heating oils. When we process renewable feedstocks, the upper right corner shows this HVO and hydrotreated esters and fatty acid production route. We mainly make paraffinic fuels. They burn excellent, have good cetane number, low particulate emissions. So they are really good, and the market is there. So it's a good choice for a lot of combustion applications. When we develop further our lignocellulosic plants, because that feedstock is more abundant, then we will produce something else. We will not produce paraffinic fuels. We produce naphthenic aromatic components. And for example, that could be a good match together with the paraffinic fuels, because, for example, in aviation, you need some degree of aromatics in your final fuel in order to have a fly-worthy fuel. And of course, we also working with the e-fuel process where you use CO2, renewable electricity, and water, and make hydrocarbons out of that. So the feedstock question is, of course, an important one. Fats and oils, that's the most mature feedstock that you can use for either producing FAME or producing HVO. The problem is there's not unlimited amount of that feedstock. Lignocellulosics or advanced feedstocks is, of course, then interesting. We have in the Nordics, we have a lot of sawdust, bark, and wood chips and stuff like that that is used for heating purposes today, but we can make more value products out of that. The problem is that the technology maturity is not as good as for fats and oils. So we with our research and innovation projects, and we work together with academia and also startups and other larger companies in partnerships. And we want to lift the technology matureness level of these lignocellulosic feedstocks in order to introduce that within the next 10 years or so. And I think also the EU has a good support system, and I think also Jaap mentioned that there's a clear understanding that we not only need to support on the early research level, but also in the piloting and demonstration, and also in first-of-a-kind commercial applications. So we have developed what we call the ABC model, where the A plant is the liquefaction plant. So where you take the biomass residues and you convert it into some liquid biocrude, or it could be a recycled crude, of course. And the C plant, that's the refinery, the adapted refinery that can produce the hydrocarbons that you need. But A and C don't match together. We need a B plant in between to pre-treat and adapt the biocrude into something that the adapted refinery can actually process. And a lot of our partnerships are about the pretreatment plant, because there are technologies that work for the A plant and there are technologies that work for the C plant, but there's very little focus on how to actually bridge these two. So we focus a lot on that. Just looking a bit on what's actually happening, because the biofuel market is rather mature. We have had regulations out there for a long time, and HVO is really on the rise, both in Europe and globally. Despite some projects being delayed, there are more and more projects coming on stream, and you can have a flexibility in when you produce your HVO if you want to optimize for aviation fuel or road and maritime applications, depending on the customer demand, of course. So there's clear rise here, and the technology is there. Customers know that this product is working, and that's really an advantage for us as a refiner, that there is a mature market that we can address, and we have a confidence that we can also develop our more advanced feedstocks as well, because they will be possible to sell on the same mature market. So our plan, today we're in 2025 with a production capacity of 1.4 million cubes of product per year. In 2029, we have revamped yet another unit in Lysekil, so we're up almost at 3 million cubes per year, or 2.6 at least. And in 2032, the aim is to be at 3.7, and all that volume is actually based on fats and oils. And in between, we have these piloting and demo scale projects based on sawdust, based on recycled tires from used tires, and also electric fuels and other things. And we hope actually to be able to scale that up into 2035 so that we can reach our overall goal of reaching 5 million cubes per year of renewable fuels. That is actually a lot less than we produce today. So we're building our strategy on producing less than today. That's not very common of a company doing like that. But it matches quite well with the demand, because electrification and bio-based hand in hand will be able to phase out the fossil. That's it.
Thank you, Henrik. And could you go back to the last slide, please?
Sure.
So how much are you producing all in all at your refineries?
We have a capacity of 18 million cubes per year. So.
And how much will this be in? I mean, those 5,000.
So now we're at 1.4, so it's about almost 10%.
Okay, but you aim to go fully renewable?
Yeah, so but we will stop, I think, at roughly 5. So that will be our new sort of maximized production.
Okay.
Because there's not, yeah, I think that will match actually our market focus quite well.
Okay. And will there be enough renewables for your feedstock?
Yeah, there is enough feedstock, and also that can be sustainably sourced. And I think more effort needs to be put into this pretreatment of the biocrudes that we can process in the refineries.
Have you looked at gasification?
We have looked at gasification, and we're happy to collaborate with, for example, methanol producers that we can refine further into hydrocarbons. Because
we've actually shown that gasification works in Gothenburg.
Yeah, it works at the pilot demo scale, yes.
Yeah. Anybody here have any questions? Yes. Could you please say your name and a short question?
Björn Söral. And thank you for an interesting presentation. You mentioned that feedstock is a limitation for your production. And you mentioned also now that the sustainability of feedstock is an issue. How can you ensure that this feedstock is not driving unwanted consequences such as biodiversity? Most of it's coming from woods, whether it's here in our region or in other areas such as rainforest. How do you ensure that this is not driving other unwanted effects?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have had the Renewable Energy Directive for a long time. It sets a clear sustainability criteria. And also there are certification schemes around. And on top of that, we have our own and extra ambitious sustainability targets. So we're not using round wood. We're using sawdust. We're using wood chips. We're using crude tall oil. So things that are sort of waste and residue streams from these industries. So in that sense, we're not driving increased deforestation or so. And there are also clear regulations around how to track that.
I think there was another question there.
Hello, Roshni from RISE, Research Institutes of Sweden. My question to you is, firstly, excellent presentation. I was very curious, and it was like aha moment for me when you showed the future of Preem and the future product portfolio and your focus. What I'm really interested to know and curious about as a research scientist myself is, for instance, what are the strategic areas, specifically within research and innovation from your end, because you said that's where you would like to grow, and any partnerships or programs, as you also mentioned in some of your slides and verbally while presenting. So would you like to elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, one example is pyrolysis, fast pyrolysis of sawdust, where we have a joint venture together with a sawmill company called Setra. So the company is called Pyrocell. They operate in Gävle. So it's a small scale actually. We call it an industrial demo. So they take sawdust from the sawmill, do fast pyrolysis. We ship it to Lysekil. We feed the fast pyrolysis bio-oil into the refinery. But we're very limited on the amount because of we lack the bee plant. So a lot of effort is putting into how can we adapt the fast pyrolysis bio-oil into something that is processable in larger percentages or ultimately purely. But as Åsa mentioned, gasification is another route, but we will not do that alone.
Okay. I have another question. You showed like refineries. This is the way for other refineries actually doing the same things? Do they have the same type of plans, or do you know?
It depends, but many refiners have a clear ambition of being climate neutral. I mean, the EU should be in 2050, so somewhere along the road we need to be there, everyone. And also the ETS is a very good, the ETS for the industrial side, but also ETS2 that is coming on road and buildings, and also fuel EU maritime. So there's clear incentives where we should go.
Okay, any further questions from the audience? Then I would like to thank you for a very nice presentation.
Thanks.
And stop. You will get this. It's a speaker's gift that you're giving funding to the Mercy ships.
Perfect, great.
So, thank you very much, Henrik. And you give your microphone to Mikael over there. And everything works fine. And now we will move to another land-based activity that also has a very close connection to the sea, and that is the port. And we will have a presentation on the topic of realizing sustainability in a port with Tina Morlind, who is Innovation Business Development Manager at the Port of Gothenburg. And Tina has an extensive experience from the energy sector prior to joining the port in 2021. And I would like to say that I used to work in the Port of Gothenburg, 2004 until 2009. And a lot of things have actually happened. And you're going to tell us what's been happening and will happen in the coming years. Welcome up, Tina.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Good. Hello, hi, nice to meet you. Hope not too many are hangover from yesterday, right? Well, thank you for the invitation in order to present the view from a port. And ports are the link between land and ocean. And from the port of Gothenburg, we see our role in this transition being three parts. First, making sure that the right infrastructure is being built in order to support our customers and partners transition on the marine sector, the aviation, and on land. And secondly, be an enabler when possible. And third, if possible, push regulations forward. I will just briefly mention a little bit about the port. Then I will talk about from our emission goals, what the initiatives since 2010 has had the impact on reducing emissions. And then finally, to conclude it up with some key focus areas of innovation that we see moving forward. And there's some keywords that I would like to push. There's nothing new, but collaboration, the importance of that. Upscaling need, resilience, building in flexibility, and data quality is some keywords. So let's see if I push the right. Yeah, so just quickly about the port. It's the largest port in the Nordic region. It's 20% of Sweden's total foreign trade, measured in tons, passes through the port of Gothenburg. Rail-connected terminals connects all of Sweden to the entire world. A full-service port, accessible 24/7 all year around. And it's the only port in Sweden capable of handling the world's largest ocean-going vessels, also fully loaded soon when the Scandi port project is finalized. It's the largest energy hub in the Nordic region, and we are an active infrastructure owner with a long-term focus on port development. And our vision is to be the world's most competitive port. We do it with accessibility, availability, and on a full focus on future transition. And just a quick, this is the last slide, it's the overview of the land capacity that we sit. It's the energy terminal that we operate ourselves. Within the port is a ro-ro terminal, container, vehicle, RoPax, and they are operated by other terminal operators based on concession agreements. And there's a big project moving out the RoPax terminal out, being placed next to the ro-ro terminal. And in the area, in the port, it's of course previous speakers, the importance refineries, automotive cluster, logistic areas, and more. So, transition, right? That we are in at the moment, that's nothing new. There's always been big leaps, but what might be different now is the amount of uncertainties. And the availability to predict is really hard. But one thing that is solid, though, that is constant, is that we're in a climate crisis. The temperatures are still rising. And to stress this matter, a picture over Gothenburg is the emissions of NOx. And you can see the red is high level of particles, and it's located over the ocean and the main roads going in and out. And here we acknowledge that as a port, we are a key link, a piece of the puzzle that we would like to contribute to reduce these ones. So the first message from the port is we stand strong and we keep our long-term focus. For us, competitiveness and climate goes hand in hand. This was a little bit tricky, jumping, right? So, And we see we're part of several value chains and the possibility to optimize to reduce emissions. So each year there's around 6,000 calls per vessels per year, 15 survey vessels operations, approximately 1 million tons of trucks, upstreams, coming in and out, and then also train movements and 7,000. So our emission goal since 2010 has been to reduce the emissions to 70%. This doesn't really sound that much, but our radius includes the city of Gothenburg. And this is the shared of where the emissions come from. So from the port and terminal handlings, it's only 3%. And we're, in our scope 1, we're down to 95%. And we've been for a couple of years, so that's not the hard, tricky part. It's upstreams, 14% of distribution. But the main challenging part is the ocean, how to reduce the emissions from a global perspective, consists of 83. And this is the part that I'm just going to go through per these 3 sections, which are the initiatives that have had the largest impact. And let's start with the ports and terminals. Of course, conversion of handling equipment. Also the battery conversion of a service vessel. Not to forget is our owners, the city owners, long-term commitment for transition to sustainability. And in all our infrastructure projects, we implement environmental calculations. Let's see. So environmental calculations where we make active choices to maybe choose more climate neutral materials. And of course, a focus on minimizing resources and waste. And the initiatives for distribution then is really, the first off is the Railport Scandinavian system, which is an excellent example of a project that started from a competitiveness focus in 2000. How can we increase the effectiveness? But in the end, it just showed what a large impact it has on the emission reductions transporting goods. Then there's the possibility of green priority lanes for heavy vehicles, fast tracks if they come with electricity or hydrogen within the port. There's of course, with partners, upbuilding the infrastructure for refueling options. That's Hydri for hydrogen, that's Gito and Circle K for the electricity stations. And other collaboration projects such as Transero with large partners. And now for the 83% of partners. What's the most important reducing emissions locally is definitely building OPS, onshore power supply, to reduce the local emissions. We've had OPS for a couple of whiles, for RoPax, RoRo, and tankers since 2024, but this is definitely ongoing movement, and we will add for container and vehicle terminals and also build more for the existing segments. One thing that is not really thought about is the back infrastructure. So we're also building a net station, and that's a key success factor that we've established over the years. For many years, a good dialogue with the local grid company, pushing, giving them information of what we think will come, so when we ask for more electricity, they are ready. And renewable fuels, alternative fuels, which production should be in the port. For example, hydrogen, then it's the Northern Energy FID for the liquefaction plants for biomethane, and also other risk assessments and bunker regulations that we've brought out, and then also R&D collaborations. And if a ship comes with a more climate neutral fuel, they can get a discount on the port fee. We work with, of course, digital aspects. It's a digital platform and an application called Just in Time. Took many years building trust, but the aim is to reduce fuels, optimize their route so they don't have to full speed in and then just wait, so book a ticket in order to have the port call. We work with digital corridors, port to port, currently with Rotterdam, how to lift information, access information for ship movements and so forth to optimize the system. We work a lot with international collaborations, both on EU and IMO level, with port collaborations, how to share knowledge, how to share success stories, failures. It's a very good dialogue between several ports. We work with green corridors, and the whole point with green corridors within transition, build the right infrastructure from A to B at the same time that the ships going in between, and maybe upstreams also with the railway connections. So 2 green corridors are at the moment. It's one to Rotterdam, it's with product tankers, it's with Tantanker Furetank, and it's with the fuel biomethane. And the other corridor is to Belgium, and it's for the Ro-Ro segment, and it's with DFDS, and it's for ammonia. So an example how to push step-by-step spreading infrastructure, upscaling. And here's a quick overview of the port readiness level of marine fuels. So fuel oil, HVO, and LNG is fully integrated. Since the last years, it's been able to bunker both LNG and methanol in our port, and we are methanol ready for more upscale. Biomethane, as I mentioned, Northern Energy's FID is really good. There's been a successful pilot also before summer with bunkering. Ammonia, ongoing risk assessments, DNV is helping us. And it's going to be finalized in the end of this year, and then we will see what the next step is. And of course, hydrogen collaborations. If hydrogen is going to be for the maritime sector is not really clear yet, but definitely for aviation and landside. One thing just to wrap up, what's the role of the port here? The port here is to supply what the demand will be. So we are working now to build in a flexibility to be ready when the demand comes. And flexibility always comes to a certain of cost. So for us, it's rebuilding infrastructure, going from fossil handling to alternative fuel handlings, a lot more different, smaller units, new pipeline systems, the risk for contamination and so forth, handling that. And of course, making this secure, handling these new fuels. So safety calculations and dispersion analysis is important. Nothing new. There is challenges for new green marine fuels, and you could simplify it by talking about the demand, supply, and a price gap. But getting the balance, getting the upscaling, handling the price gap that exists. Will there be a need? Is incentives the right solution? Is it state involvement that is required to reduce that price gap? But we need to acknowledge, and this is one of the key messages of the need for innovation, tackling the price gap. And just a quick view of how we work proactive to try, how big or small to influence regulatory international. And the green is, as a landlord, we have a certain amount of legal capacity to choose what to build on our own land and to involve it. But of course, that has little global impact. The real impact goes when it comes up to an international level where it's a level playing field. If we just take, for example, the OPS for the first Ro-Ro that was built in 2000, the first high voltage system. 2 people start talking, stay on a line, let's do it, let's solve the technical issue, that's seldom the problem, and they made it happen. So then we showed it was technically possibly, just do it. Then 10 years later, our environmental permits got changed, so we got the push that we need to add OPS with requirements. So then we showed EU, look, you can legally, possibly, push this OPS. So we think that's a small piece of the puzzle that the legislations that are upcoming now is movements for change. And it's a 30 years time span. And a lot of people are working in this way. But this is our way of showing you can be proactive, pushing. So, and what's the future of green corridors? Definitely, we see it step by step, a small piece of the puzzle that we're trying to, on a global scale, upscale technology solutions, upscale the alternative fuel expansion. And these are some examples that we might look at, or we are in dialogue with. So, to my last conclusion, moving forward, what we think is the need of innovation, and I hope you're still awake, so to say. First of all, it's definitely getting collaborations, find a business model. That's when we get project success. Talking about goal conflicts, risk sharing, how to find the system boundaries, where's the business model, how is there a private-public collaborations, is there a collaboration between ports and privates, this to get upscale. Then definitely we want to build things now, and we see that the TRL level, the technology solutions are out there, and several other speakers have said it. So just let's make this upscale. And it needs to be a balance, of course, between short R&D and long R&D, but we're asking for short at the moment. And don't miss the value chain aspects. Apply good knowledge from, for example, power and heat sector to the shipping industry and vice versa. There's good solutions there. Connect goods flows and optimize them. The previous picture, reduce price gaps. How? I analyze this, both CAPEX and OPEX. How can we reduce the project risks? What's in funding needed, not just up to feasibility study and further on. OPEX is the fuel X factor, how to innovate around that. For us, it's a large focus on military mobility and security of supply, and probably some heard it yesterday, listened to the commercial meet, but definitely it's a focus for us. When I heard the lessons learned from Monday of the military operation, there's a demand for speed in mobility. There's a demand for financial transaction speed in order for actors to act. There's a demand for crew shipments from going to other nationalities to Swedish shipments within 4 hours. And nobody knows who's going to pay for it, right? So we're talking about resilience. We know it's going to cost. We don't know who's going to cost for what. So how can we build this when we know it's going to cost, but we're going to build it smart? So build in resilience, and how can we match it when it's a key going together with sustainability initiatives that we still want to need to get to reduce the emissions. So that's the need for innovation we're asking for right now. And still working on the potential with the digitalization AI, of course. It's definitely to connect value chains, increase the predictability. But first, don't miss, it's the low-hanging fruits. Find data sources, get access to them, are they willing to share? Increase the quality of the data, build the data platforms, establish a good data governance in your corporations. I can't stress that enough. And first then, that's the really unlocking mechanism of AI. So it's a lot of things we can do out there. So keep on pushing this transition. And for ports, as I mentioned a little bit before, we stand going from an old fossil infrastructure building towards a future, so we need to build in a flexibility when we don't know what the silver bullet solution will be. There's no silver bullet solution. So how for us to build in flexibility in the best way for dual use. And the last piece, increase circularity, of course, business models. We dredge a lot. Can we use that in better ways? So applied science is what we're asking for. Yeah, so that was
Thank you very much,
and the
Tina.
demand for energy.
One.
It's actually not to joke about. It's really important when they say that AI is going to take 90+% of all the energy in the future within the near 2040 2050. All industries are asking for more electricity, but what can our industry ship into this? Don't miss that. Is OPS needs to be added to the flexibility market to the local grid? Is that something that the ship industry needs to do, sort of? So. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Tina. Very interesting, very happy to see that things are actually happening. And then it's not a very nice question, but earlier there wasn't a prize, environmental prize or whatever, for ports that you did not win. Do you have competition now from other ports, or are you still in the lead?
No. We are definitely in competition, but that's a good competition, right? And we acknowledge and push, and there's a lot of good things going on that we are lacking behind at the moment, so that we want to learn. So Singapore and Rotterdam is very good in many areas. So, for example, so yes, we're humble. We've had the fortunate that we've had good owners that early on put our emission goals, but now there's definitely very good ports, and we should upscale, not invent the wheel again, and learn from each other.
What's hardest in your transition of all these things you talk about? Is it to get the funding? Is it environmental permits? Is it getting the customers to either wait for it or go for it?
Wow, good question. It all depends on which value chain and which question. And our role is to be humble also, and to know that the real brave ones are the ones in the end of the value chain sitting in this room. But it's a complexity that's hard. And we need to get the level playing field at the same time.
But your owner is willing to let you invest in, sorry for your microphone, is willing to let you invest in those technologies or those solutions that you need to do in order to go where you want to go.
Well, our owners support our push and what we put our time and effort, but we are landlords and other brave partners build. So we are enablers for others, infrastructure owners, wanting to come and invest in the port. What's hardest? I think there's a lot of willingness, but it's getting the business case together. So it's definitely the finding the business case and the collaborations is the hardest. Technical solutions is often easy to find because it's out there.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience? Not a single one. You have been so really good at explaining, but here we have one from Roshni again. Rice.
Very excellent presentation, Tina. So good, especially the final slide where you were showing the strategic areas that you would like to move forward. What I'm really curious to know more from, if you can give some teasers, is the risk assessment and R&D collaboration part that you mentioned in one of your slides. So, thank you.
Yes, so the ongoing risk assessment is for ammoniac, and DNV is helping us with that. The results will come to this in the end of this year, and it's also dispersion calculations. But there's a lot of subcategories, and we can't say anything more what the next step is. But if the demand side is saying that this might be one of the solutions, of course we should work on. Our responsibility is to make sure that it's handled safe within port, where we need to take a decision of we determine that this is safe for us. And the R&D is, for example, hydrogen. It's maybe some of the researchers are sitting here in the collaboration projects. For our point of view, we have storage rooms within the port, so that's one of the questions. How to storage hydrogen? Should the port storage facilities might be used for that, for example? But then it's the main question that we're all asking, if I dare to ask from a port perspective, is which infrastructure should be built where? Not all infrastructure should be built in all ports. So where to find the optimum building, which type of production facility should be built in Gothenburg and should be not built in Gothenburg due to, for example, green electricity, and we're part of the SE3 areas. But let's talk later about the collaborations for a little bit more.
Then I have to say thank you very, very much, Tina. And before you leave, you will get this envelope. It's that you are giving a gift to Mercy Ships. So here you are. Thank you, and thank you very much. And now, since you're not getting any coffee break, you all should stand up and rotate on your. Let's see if you're as. You can just turn around and raise your arms a little. And yeah, like that. You don't need to sing. We did that a lot yesterday. And now it's actually time to move from land to sea. And we're going to listen to a presentation involving the ship that you have might visited already and or will visit after this session is over. Tärnvik, that is in Dunsö Deep Harbor. And the title of this presentation is Sailing Back to the Future. And the speaker, Claes Möller, CEO of Tantank, who has been working there for quite a while.
Yes.
In several positions on land
yes.
and on board. Welcome, Claes, and
Thank you.
Here's this one.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for having me here, and yes, nice to see you all. So I will talk a little bit about Tantank's journey to this, what you can see in the harbor now, our vessel Tärnvik. So we can say that this is our journey in the sustainable shipping that I will talk about. And we strive to reduce the climate and environmental footprint of our company. And some short information about our company. It is, yes, a classic family company, founded in 1958 on this island. And that is an advantage when we come to what we will talk about today, because it is very short decision lines and so on in the company. So it is quite easy to, it's never, nothing is easy, but but we can come to a decision quite quickly. And like we have now is 10 oil and chemical tankers, 10 to 15,000 tons. And you can see the journey that we will talk about is the pictures on the side there, the first vessel to the last vessel. But I will only concentrate on the last 10 years with this presentation. And we are 250 employees on board and 20 ashore. And that is also important to mention, because every decision that we take at the office is these 250 employees who will execute. They will do the work on board. So it is always important to have that in mind when you're doing a study or whatever. Who will operate these new technologies? So that is important. And as it is now, we have 3 more new buildings under construction. Tärnvik was the first of these 5 vessels that we ordered. And we took delivery Thursday in China last week of 1. And then we have 2 more to go. 1 more this year and then 2 more under 2027. And our trading area, this is also important when we talk about technologies and all the things, because it is important to know which area the vessel should operate and all these, what kind of operations are we doing and these things. So when we start with the study or a research or whatever it is always important to have the crew in top, of course, and then trading area in order to succeed. So our trading area is mainly in the Nordic countries. And so we are transporting bio-based fuels from Gothenburg and Porvoo and so on to the ports here in Sweden, Norway and Finland. Yes, now I will talk about our last 10 years in the company. And it started when we are coming into this energy efficient. Then it was extremely much focus 10 years ago, at least in our company, with regards to reduce the consumption of the vessel. And that, all focus was on energy efficient hull, energy efficient main engine, and then propeller and rudder, and yes, how to operate the engine in the best way and so on, and then which fuel is the most energy efficient and so on. And then we ended up in these vessels. So there we were able to reduce the consumption a lot. And then it was time again to order vessel. And then we looked into our operation, trading, operation, how much in pilot, how much in kill canal, and how much in all these areas. And then we found out that because we can realize that it is not easy for us to go directly to electricity of the vessel. That is more or less impossible for us. But at least we can do something. We can replace the auxiliary engine with batteries. So therefore we decided that we go for batteries in order to minimize the running hours for the auxiliary system. And that became a good success. And then together with Gothenburg Harbor, this shore power also, to not use the auxiliary engines when we are in port. So that has also been a success for us. And then it was time to order vessels again. And then we looked into what can Tärntank do more in order to reduce the consumption. And then we ended up in the sale, because now we have an efficient hull, we have batteries, we have shore power. And then we looked into the operation again, and then we see that these sales can be an advantage for us, because we have 220 sea days per year, and that is quite much. So if we can reduce the consumption at sea, then this will have a big effect for the environment. So it is really good. And then we was also looking into fuel and so on, what will be the future. And yes, we have to see. But we ended up with methanol for these vessels, e-methanol we're aiming for, of course. So for us, we can say that everything is possible if you believe in it. Then it is possible to succeed. But of course, you need to have some documentation or a study or whatever we should call it in order to believe in what you are doing. So, but if this study or calculations or whatever it is made in a good way, then you can feel that now we have done this in a proper way. Now we have the figures, we have 10%. Okay, then we believe in these 10%. And then we can leave this step a little bit and focus on the other things in order to get the operation in a good way. So a good study is really good. And we can see with all the studies that we have done in advance, and when we come to the practical things and also operation of the things later on, it has succeeded. We are in these 4% or 10% or 5% or whatever, what we have, what was our aim. And then, of course, you need to investigate which type of technology is the best for your trading. And our trading, like I said, is the Nordic countries. And we saw that with, for example, Flettner rotors in our trading, it is a extremely good type of sales in another trade. But for our trade, it was not good. So therefore, it is important to also investigate different types in order to see what is the best solution for our trading. And we were checking on our routes. And here, once again, our routes are quite limited. We cannot do so much. It is important that for the crew and all this, that we are not putting too much requirement that you should be a good sailor, you should kryssa or make something. So we are only concentrating, if we keep the same routes that we are doing today, what will be the outcome for this? So that is what we have calculated. Then later on, the crew will do miracles. They will change the course a little bit and save even more. But we are not putting that. That will come later on when they are confident with the systems. And like you said, also that you need also to have a lot of background information. So in our case, with regards to the sales, it is the winds which has been the last 20 years in order to come to that conclusion. So, and then it's once again, it is a little bit more trades that we have been looking for. And this is, Henrik, you have to explain again, but when these curves are outside, then the vessel is actually sailing. That is what I have been learned. So, but it is really interesting. And then also, so here is the figures that we have calculated, and then we have calculated that if we replace diesel today by wind, then we will save this 812. And that I believe we will come there. We can already now see that we are extremely close to what we have been calculated theoretically, which is agreeing to the actual what is happening now. And then we have also replaced diesel with e-methanol, and then we will also do some saving. And we are not aiming for 100%, so we are aiming for less, so we have aimed for 60% maybe. So we are not aiming for 100%. And then in the end it will be 100%, but it is good to take it in steps. And then we have the implementation, and it is also good to not know so much, because there is many steps along the way, which if you had known this, then you will never do it. If I had known that these foundations will look like this, then okay, no. We will not do it. It is too much. The vessel will be like that or that. So it is good also to not know everything. Something is good to get a little bit surprised that it is. So, but when we talked about to believe in it, then our studies has made it that we can believe it. But then it is also important, if we should be able to succeed and if we should be able to take the further steps, it is also good if someone else believe in it. And that is normally the funds that we have. We have our Klimatklivet, we have EU innovation funds and so on. So, and for us it has been EU Innovation Fund och Klimatklivet who has also believed in it. And that is a really good receipt when you are coming so far that you have taken the decision that you should go for this, that they also believe in this. So, and it's also good that they have some money you can get also for it, of course. But the EU Innovation Fund needs a lot of information before they believe in it, much more than we have. But yes. But for like Jaap was saying before, this is just to you can see the name. It takes some days in order before you are getting this name, E-methanol X wind solution. But for us, EU Innovation Fund has been a part of the methanol conversion of the engine, and also the fuel gas system for the methanol, and the wind propulsion system. So these three areas has been supported by EU Innovation Fund, which is extremely appreciated. And then we have in Klimatklivet, our project is named Hybrid Solution Plus. And they have been a part of this DC-link battery system and high voltage shore power connection and the wind assist. But we are not getting double because EU Innovation Fund is only for one vessel. Klimatklivet has been for the other vessels. So it is not double funding for sure, and also for the methanol conversion for the next vessels. And like I said, it is crew is the core of the business, of course, and they are the one which will operate this in the later on. So when you do the studies or investigations and so on, make sure that it is robust equipment. Make sure that it should be a harsh environment and so on, and the crew should feel comfortable all the time. That is very important. And it should also be user-friendly, so they can feel that, yes, we can take it up, we can take it down, we can, yes, whatever it is. And then we have the training. Training is important. So when we start a project like this or decide that we should go for this, involve the crew, mention that this will be and so on in order to be prepared for these technologies. Then we will succeed. And then we have our goal towards net zero, and meaningful change is never achieved alone. It is for sure. It requires collaboration, commitment, and collective effort of many. And that is, you can see there, it is a lot of parties. And I have not mentioned everyone, but it is a lot of parties which needs to be involved if you should succeed in this. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any surprises so far?
A lot of
And you would like to mention?
We have overcome all the surprises.
Okay. And the crew,
yes,
that was your last slide. Are they happy or?
Yes, they are extremely happy now. But in the beginning, they were very skeptical, I have to say. Because they say, yeah, it will cover the site and it is not possible. And then as soon as they are starting, because this first month we can say that we have been using it, it has been just in order to overcome all these scares that they had in advance. So now they have been running up and down and up, and now they feel that they have control over it. So now it is really good, and now we can also see the result of it. So we are happy, and the crew is happy.
And was it worth the while with the administration in the Innovation Fund? You said so, but
yes, we have, like I said before on this picture, it is we have extremely good help to do this. We cannot do this by ourselves, but with help it is possible.
But you might give some insights to to what they
Yes,
could actually.
Yes, we have been a part of this evaluation, so we have mentioned it, but yes.
I'm thinking about if they want to simplify it.
Yes.
If anybody else or you would like to ask for money later on.
Yes.
Are there any questions to Claes? Okay, so there is one. And make it short, because we lost some time in the beginning.
Hi, my name is Maluza. It's just a curiosity. It's regarding what you just mentioned, that the wind assisted propulsion is, in fact, we can see imposed another hazard for navigation, because it is, in fact, obstructing a bit the visibility. And I would like to ask if you found a way to overcome this additional hazard, or if you did, what it was, and or if it was required, or if it was just an initiative.
We can say that yes, I understand what you mean, because you can solve. If it is obstructing too much, then you can install cameras or whatever in this. But for us, it has not been needed, because if we are following the regulations, of course, so there you have a position for the officer on watch, and he or she should see in that direction and these angles and so on, and we comply with all this for this vessel. So, but if the crew will feel that this will obstruct or whatever, then of course we will install some cameras and so on to avoid that. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, Elin, can you?
Hello, my name is Anders Larsen Ross, representing RENA. Thanks for the presentation, very interesting. I'm looking forward to going down and see the ship.
Yes.
That's very interesting. Some speakers, or previous speakers, talked about the importance of having a sound business plan. So I'm curious to know, is there a business plan in this? What's the investment that you have done? What's the return of investment? Also, I'd like to just have clarified, there was a lot of savings that you mentioned, 10% and 4% and another 10% and 4%. So have you actually saved like 30-40% from the actual beginning?
Yes, it is. We can say that if we look into all the savings, let's say from 2015 vessels, we can see this, yes, more or less 50% savings from 24 tons per day down to 11, where we are now about. So it is. So we have all this, and that was what I was saying also. So these theoretical figures is correct, and it agrees with the reality. And the business plan, yes, we have a business plan, of course, and we have a return of investment also.
That's acceptable.
Yes,
no.
Which is acceptable, yes.
Okay.
So, and I have to say also for the batteries and shore power to install in an older vessel, because that is a high, but I believe for sales you can return the investment quite fast, because then you are saving fuel on the main engine. for the batteries and shore power, you are saving fuel on the auxiliary engine, which is not consuming so much. So the return of the investment for sales is better than, for us at least, batteries and shore power.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claes. I think we need to give you a very, and you don't know, you have to wait. And also, I need to give you this gift, the Mercer Ships donation that you are doing. Very nice of you. And now to the last but not least, from the other side of Sweden, and also a little bit out in the sea, we are going to talk about something completely different. Hydrogen for ships. And I would like to invite Mikael Rasola from Gotland company, Gotland Tech Development, to speak, and you will also come up later on, Björn, but you might sit a little while, I think. And Mikael, you have an academic research background, and you've been leading research projects here and there, and you came on board not so long ago, and prior to that you were working with Oceanbird. So
yes.
But you will not talk about Oceanbird today. You will talk about hydrogen.
I will talk about hydrogen, exactly. Yeah, so fairly new, just starting to realize all the challenges we have with challenges and opportunities we have with hydrogen, and so great to see also Tantank presentation on wind, having worked very closely with that for the past 7 years. Yes. Mikael, I work at the part of Gotlandsbolaget called Gotland Tech Development. We are basically doing a number of different things. We are doing new buildings. We're working with energy transition projects, so working closely with ports related to OPS, auto mooring, smart ports, and so on. We are working with investments in green energy production. And also we are sort of the key contact point for Gotlandsbolaget in terms of connecting to academia and research. So, of course, Gotland, like many other islands, we have some challenges. Basically what we're doing, we're providing a highway to Gotland. We have quite tough requirements on us regarding the capacity, the speed and availability, which is something that sort of dictates a lot of what we do in terms of, for example, new vessel development, in order to reach our own climate goals of reduction by 70% by 2030 and climate neutral 2045. So when we look at energy in the shorter term and medium term, we see already now, of course, there's a huge variation in price. And we think that being flexible in terms of fuel usage is one of the absolute most key points going forward now in the near term. If we look a little bit in the longer perspective, we see, of course, that biomass is sort of a limited resource. It's interesting to hear your presentation, Henrik, with respect to that. We believe that electrofuels will play a significant role going forward a little further. And of course, that we sort of collectively have to work with making the total energy system a lot more efficient. So if we talk about our traffic a little bit, we're doing around 3,000 crossings per year. That's 20 crossings a day in the peak season. Every week we transport about 100,000 persons. But it's also a huge variation. So summertime, 100,000 people in 1 week. 1 week in January is probably less than 10,000. We are required to have a quite short passage time, going from 5-6 hours to 3.5, actually slightly less. And we know high speed costs a lot of energy, of course. And we're transporting roughly 2 million passengers every year. Today we run the traffic on 3 RoPax vessels, 2 gas dual fuel vessels, and 1 slightly older diesel vessel. And working with sort of our climate transition is nothing new. We've been working with this for a long time. Already 2018, 2019, we invested in the 2 dual fuel gas vessels that we run now, which can run on not 100% LBG, but quite a large amount of LBG. Of course, we have shore power in both Visby and Nynäshamn. In 21-22, we worked a lot with the sort of horizon concept, which I will come back to. That was both a RoPax and a high-speed ferry, where we sort of took the question of dual fuel, multi-fuel to a quite quite in-deep evaluations. We've also invested in biogas production, both on Gotland, not for our own usage, but also now recently in Eskilstuna Biogas, which actually will produce liquefied biogas, where we have also entered into a long-term offtake agreement. So 10 years is basically 10% of our total energy need. So when we talk about fuel, and I'm leading up to a little bit hydrogen and our decision to go with this Horizon X catamaran, we see that hydrogen will play a very important part in the future fuel transition. Of course, if you logically think about it from an energy system effectiveness point of view, using it as a direct fuel is very attractive. You get rid of a lot of energy consumption steps going into other fuels. But we see this as, so that's one path we go with the multi-fuel vessel, that we actually can run on hydrogen as a fuel of its own. But we still think it's equally important to look of the hydrogen role in e-fuels, in how you can boost biogas production, how you can combine biogas production with, for example, e-methane production and so on. So we're not saying, you know, hydrogen, we're looking at hydrogen as an important piece of the energy puzzle. But of course, hydrogen, using it directly as a fuel, we see a lot of challenges, and that's partly why we're here today and working together with academia in terms of infrastructure, storage, bunkering, and production, and so on. But nevertheless, in earlier this year, we actually took the decision to take an investment, and we ordered Gotland Horizon X. It's one of the largest catamarans in the world. It's in the process of drawing approval right now, and production will start early next year. It's 130 meters long. Will travel at roughly the same speeds as we do today, and roughly the same capacity in terms of cars and people. Delivery from yard is in 28, and we plan for the first traffic in 29. So that's super exciting. And I think the most exciting part is not that it's a catamaran, that's old stuff, but the actual propulsion machinery in this, where we take a gas turbine, a Siemens gas turbine, which is sort of high efficiency in terms of weight, but quite low efficiency in terms of fuel efficiency. And we combine that with a waste heat recovery system, bringing the total system efficiency up close to a more conventional combustion machinery. But the key here is that it's a truly multi-fuel engine. You can put basically anything into this turbine and it will run. It's been run on 100% hydrogen, it's been run on 100% methanol, it can run on diesel, it can run on biogas, LNG, and so on. This is really what we see. We talk about not dual fuel, but a multi-fuel solution. And we actually also prepared it. You see in the forward part of the vessel, we actually truly prepared it also to be multi-fuel. This is now, as it's being delivered, will be sort of empty storage space, but that's for future placement of hydrogen tanks or methanol tanks or whatever it will be. And why it is so important to engage with academia, I think it's we've seen so many good examples here where the outcome has been so successful. We see it as working together with Uppsala and our other academic partners, is that they can run really far ahead. They can, and I'm sure Björn will talk about it in a few minutes, all the challenges of running this operation on 100% hydrogen. It's something that is a little bit further ahead in the future, but it's super important that we keep the eyes on the horizon and work actively with that. So that's the job of academia, as I see it, and also the role to communicate it clearly to us as operators. We, on the other hand, must listen. We can invest and make things happen right here and right now. For example, as with the Horizon X, which is by no means the sort of cheapest way to do this, but we believe in it long term. And of course, we believe in active engagement with academia purely from a sort of fostering next generation engineers and researchers, which ultimately will benefit us. So I'm looking forward to more fruitful collaboration with Uppsala and other partners here, both in terms of hydrogen, other fuels, and so on. So please connect after presentation, and I look forward to getting more nitty-gritty and learn more about hydrogen, Björn. Please.
Thank you, and welcome up Björn Samuelsson, researcher at Uppsala, who's actually built the whole group around what you're doing with hydrogen.
Yes.
Welcome up.
It doesn't work. Do we have... now it's working. Great.
So, could I get here it is. Thank you. So, I guess I'm the theory part here. Let's start with the why. And before I answer that question, I would like to connect a little bit to what Anders said in the very beginning about collaboration in between academia and the industry. As me being part of the engineering science, which I think to great extent is an applied science, it's very important that we have these good collaborations with the industry. And I'm very happy to say that we have had in particular with Gotlandsbolaget and Gotland Tech Development, ever since I started at Uppsala 5 years ago, we have had very good cooperation. I think it's been very fruitful. It's fun to work together. Also, I must give a certain to also and Lighthouse, which is also a very important platform for finding this collaboration in between academia and university. So, but why do we interest in hydrogen? If we let a fossil fuel react with oxygen, we will get energy. That's nice. We need the energy. We will get some water. That's okay. But we will get a lot of CO2, which is obviously a certain problem for us. If we instead let hydrogen react with oxygen, we will get energy, nice, which we want, and water. That's a much nicer and cleaner reaction. So you could say that this is really the reason why we do interest ourselves into hydrogen. We could, when we started this work with hydrogen, we could, of course, guess that there will be certain challenges. We did not know all of them. Also there, I think it's good not to know what are the problems. If we produce our hydrogen using electrolysis from water, we need something about 50 kilowatt hours electricity per kilo of hydrogen and 10 liters of water. We will get 1 kilo of hydrogen, which is which is 33 kilowatt hours of energy. If we do this with renewable energy, we will have a non-fossil system. And there is no carbon in this equation, which means that there will be no carbon dioxide. So this gives us a truly fossil-free circular system. We start with water and wind, we get energy and water back again. That's excellent. Also, we can use this in different ways on board a ship. As Mikael said, the solution for the Horizon X with a gas turbine gives us a very nice multi-fuel solution, which I think in particular in the beginning of using a new fuel like hydrogen is good because that gives us a lot of redundancy. We could use this in the traditional combustion engine. I spoke yesterday with a representative from Wärtsilä. They are running now on 100% hydrogen. That would give us probably, we would say, more of a dual fuel solution. Or we could go the way to use fuel cells to have electrified propulsion. So there are different ways of using this. If you look upon what has been built so far, we have the hydrogen ferry in Stavanger, Hydra, using liquid hydrogen. We have Bill Gates' luxury yacht, which I think is for sale. And I tried to convince my vice chancellor we need to buy this, but so far he's a little bit hesitant. We also have in the pipeline, as Mikael mentioned, the Gotland Horizon. We also have being built for the moment in Ålesund in Norway. They built 2 ships for Torghatten that will run the operations in between Bodø and Lofoten. Where Horizon X will use gas turbines, Torghatten will use fuel cells.
And I was supposed to say that the Torghatten ferries will be in operations from within about 12 months. So now the second why doesn't we use this more? Two examples actually of boats using hydrogen. It seems so good, really a good solution, but we are not really using it. One reason is, of course, that the fossil fuels are so cheap. But there are some obstacles here. We need a lot of renewable energy. The production of hydrogen fits very well into the big offshore wind farms. Unfortunately, we have a certain bump in the road here. We need green hydrogen production. Today, most of the hydrogen, 95-ish%, is actually from fossil feedstock. So we need new hydrogen production. And there's lots of talks about the green hydrogen, but so far the production capacity is quite low and quite small scale. How to get the hydrogen to the right place, the transport capacity. Pipelines are very good, but we don't have very much of pipelines in Sweden. And we need an infrastructure in the port, as was mentioned from Gothenburg port, which is a tricky part. So we need efficient and a robust supply system. In our group, we focus on this supply system. Starting from that, we need to produce, we need to have a renewable energy, we need to produce a hydrogen, we need water, of course. We will get back a lot of oxygen that could be used in good ways. Heat, we need to transport this to the port, and we need to handle this in the port. And we need to have this whole supply chain to work in an efficient way. We have mainly two focus areas now where we spend the resources in our group. Main part is within the port, which we have seen this is really the big technical problem. For the Gotland ferry system, we need to refuel the ferry with 16 tons of hydrogen in 45 minutes. This is a Formula 1 pit stop. To do this, the most likely solution is to use cascade filling, so we have a higher pressure on the port side, and then we let the gas flow from the higher pressure to the lower pressure on board. In order to do that, we need about 40 tons of hydrogen in different pressure levels, up to 500 bars on the port side. This will take a certain place. Depending on how much we will be allowed to have in each storage system, we will probably need at least some 2,000 square meters to fuel one ferry. But it could be 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 square meters. And in particular, if you look upon the port of Visby, we don't really find the 2,000 square meters really easy there. We have a certain challenge here with space. Also, as you know from the law of the gases, when we increase the pressure, we will increase the temperature. And we will do this in two steps. First, from the pipeline coming in with hydrogen to the port, some 30 to 40 bar should be compressed up to 500 bars. Then fueling the ship. When the ship enters the port, we will have about 50 to 60 bars left on board. This should be now increased to 250 bar. We will have a challenge with the temperature. That will cost us some energy of cooling this. It will also cost us energy in compressing the gases. In addition to this in the port, in the Visby port, we have almost 2 million passengers there, cars and cargo, and this should be in close proximity of a lot of high pressure hydrogen. In the other end of this supply chain, we have the hydrogen production. we need a lot of energy. To produce enough hydrogen for the Horizon X, we need an electrolyzer of something like 50 to 90 megawatt. It will consume about half a terawatt hour per year. A lot of energy. A capex of roughly 100 million euros. An operational cost that is very depending on electricity prices. So, another area we are focused on now, and we're starting up a PhD project now, is the integrated wind hydrogen energy system. We could use the wind energy in a good way to produce hydrogen, because utilizing the volatility in the energy production, we could utilize otherwise curtailed wind resources to produce hydrogen. This could also add a service to the electricity grid by stabilizing the energy system. So we have a potential to decrease hydrogen cost by having this combined energy system. Liquid hydrogen, I would like just to say a few words about that. We have very little use of liquid hydrogen in Europe today. In US a little bit more. It has the potential to be a game changer, actually. But we know very little about how to design an efficient supply system for liquid hydrogen. It could be a better solution for the maritime sector. It could actually increase the operational range quite a lot for the maritime operations. So, as a summary, my last slide now also. Hydrogen has a good potential as being both fossil and carbon-free to be a good alternative for the maritime sector. We do have both technical and economical challenges to solve. And in order to do that, we need more research. And I'm happy to say that yesterday I got a decision from the Swedish Energy Agency that we were granted 12 million Swedish crowns for a new research project focusing on the port. That's very nice. So I'm very happy to talk to you afterwards about that also. And liquid hydrogen has the potential to become a game changer into this. So, soon you can have lunch.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Michael, you might want to come up here. So, you have already ordered the ship. Will you have any hydrogen for it when it comes in operation 2029?
No.
No. When do you think you will have it? Depending, and what is it depending on? How should it happen?
No, but it should happen, continuing this work, and then possibly one solution would be to do a mix-in of a sort of making more of a pilot project. We talked about it, what the ports have done. So we need to take small steps. We have the eyes on the target, and then work continuously towards that end. And I think that's exactly what we're doing.
He was talking about liquid hydrogen. Would that work for you?
You ask Björn.
No, I mean, if the solution during those years becomes liquid hydrogen, would that work on your Horizon X catamaran?
Hard to say, to give a sensible answer to that. I don't know. I guess from a technical point of view, combustion-wise, no problem. You will have to gasify it before, but regarding infrastructure on board, I'm not sure.
Okay. So what can the authorities do to help you? You got 12 million yesterday. That was something, at least, to come further along the line. But for you at the Gotlandsbolaget,
I think one thing I mentioned was this investment support, which we did not get for the catamaran. So that is on our books, so to say. But of course, there is a premium to being a little bit going forward. So it was good to hear Tantak got some good support for the wind installation, methanol installation. I think that is really important in the early stages. So that kind of support would be so strengthening Klimatklivet, Industriklivet, maybe for maritime sector would be I think good ways.
What's the biggest obstacle today?
You asking me?
Both of you? Feel free to give an answer.
I would say the biggest technical obstacle we have is in the port. It's a narrow space. We have not so much of experience of working with gases, there will be high pressures, etc., etc. We need to spend a lot of thinking here.
Okay, is there anybody out here having a question? About your equations, maybe? No. Henrik Rådberg from Prim has a question.
Yeah, to Mikael, Tank mentioned that you should have like the people on board in mind when you do big changes. What's the pros and cons for the people on board when you change out the piston engine for a gas
turbine?
I mean, potentially, we don't know yet, but potentially, I mean, a much cleaner, more silent, less vibration working environment. So that could be, for sure, some positive effects. I think everyone is very excited, and we involve all parts of the organization now going onto the site in Philippines to build this vessel. So I think everyone is very, very excited to see this come to life. And let's hope that we come back in a few years and tell you how it was.
I can add here that we are together with RISE, we are planning for a research project where to investigate the attitudes for the crew about moving into new alternative fuels, and in particular hydrogen.
Okay. Do we have any more questions? You see that people are eating lunch there, so I think you can ask questions during lunch also. And I would very much like to thank you, both of you. And here is your gift certificate for giving funding to Mercy Ships. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And please don't leave. Please don't leave. Because we are now going to have some final words with Anders Hermansson, who's been sitting here and writing a lot. So how do we summarize this, Anders?
So I'm the one thing standing between you and lunch.
Yes.
So I think you prefer it short. No, but I think we have a quite large, good number of examples where we are actually making very good progress on this. And I think there is one thing that strikes me listening to all the discussions today, that this is a thing where the maritime industry is in it together. It cannot be solved only on board the ship. It cannot be solved only in the port. And we need the manufacturer of equipment to help us, and also the fuel providers, whether that fuel might be. I think we will need everything moving forward if we really are to address climate change. I think there are things that we need to be better on. Using the EU funding is one. We also need to develop the national funding to be able to do it. I mentioned before that I still think academia and industry needs to be closer. There are good examples, Björn, I give that, but we need to be, this has to happen a lot more for us and for the industry moving forward. So I think that's one thing. I lacked one part.
Okay. That was
I lacked the agencies that are going to put the rules and regulations down to make everything work. That's going to be a huge challenge moving forward. We're going to have not just one fuel. We've been quite easygoing in the industry, using one type of fuels. We're going to have multi-type of fuels, perhaps even mixed in the same ship. What will that entail on the ships and on the shore side? To make the transition happen, we have to finalize and know what this will mean now and not 10 years in the future, when we should make the investments today.
So the road plan, you're missing the road map to
the rules and regulation needed.
Yeah, okay.
But again, there are so many good things, good examples, and that makes me not just wanting lunch, but also looking forward to the transition. And I think we will make the trip if we do it together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would like to thank you all, participants here, speakers, audience, and technical support. And hope you've had 2 quite interesting hours, and that you're all inspired to continue the work towards sustainable shipping in the sustainable future. And I would also like to say goodbye to some of you, because I will no longer work for Lighthouse at the end of this year, but I have a successor who's sitting there, and his name is Andreas Back. So if you have any questions, you can talk to me, but you can further on, you can talk to Andreas. And by this, I would say thank you very, very much.